Greetings, my dear viewers! Today is March the 19th, and in this video I will focus on the tactics that the Russian and Ukrainian militaries are using today and how they have changed over the past few weeks, and taking this into account, how events may develop in the near future. You remember I have already made several materials on this subject. Links to them I will give below this video. Over the last 10 days there have been noticeable changes in the way both Russian and Ukrainian forces are fighting today. Note that during this time there are almost no victory claims from the Ukrainian armed forces. No, there are such claims, of course. The latest was made yesterday and said that Russian troops were pushed back from Kyiv by 70 kilometers. Given the fact that the Ukrainian General Staff immediately denies all those claims, it is clear that they are worthless. However, we are talking about reality. We are talking about the fact that Russian troops are no longer covering hundreds of kilometers in a couple of days. So, they are not exposed to unnecessary danger because of it. But the Russians adapted to this very quickly and changed their tactics. They focused on destroying military vehicles and personnel of the Ukrainian army. And they have achieved excellent results. Just a few recent strikes on the Yarovoy training facility are worth mentioning. The Foreign Legion of the Ukrainian army, which had never been formed, lost several hundred men killed and wounded, and the rest of the contingent of this so-called legion, which is in fact a brigade, dissolved into trains to Poland. I would also like to pay attention to yesterday's strike and destruction of the 79th Brigade in Mykolaiv. There is no official data, but the photos published by Swedish journalists who were on the scene are stunning. So the brigade is effectively gone. As I understand it, we are talking about death toll numbers comparable to the such at Yarovoy training facility. And given the fact that part of the brigade is still fighting at the Severodonetsk and Lysychansk areas, only part of the personnel and the mobilized contingent were at the base. So, those parts of the 79th Brigade stationed in Mykolaiv do not exist anymore. The only units left are those that are fighting at Donbass. The day before there had been a strike on Myrifa. The territory defense forces were concentrated there in 2 points, which were hit. The total losses of the territory defense forces at those 2 sites were more than 50 people, which is a catastrophe for those militants of Myrifa. 3 incidents and 3 disasters that simply destroyed the garrisons of those places. And such episodes appear every day already. In addition, I would like to point out that in all 3 of these operations, the Russian armed forces suffered no casualties. And this is what kills the morale of the Ukrainian military most. Futility. So, the technical superiority of the Russian army becomes more obvious every day. It already brings obvious results. The activity of destroying armored vehicles of the Ukrainian military grows every day, as well as successful examples of counter-battery fighting. One clear example is the suppression of Ukrainian artillery groups in Zaporozhye. I have already mentioned this point during the counterattack. I mean that announced counterattack, which was to take place. Well, formally it took place, but in fact it did not. It turned out to be a defeat. I recall the assault groups that went on the attack near Kyiv were caught in a fire bag, in an ambush that had been created especially for them. In Zaporozhye, everything was much simpler. Aircraft and artillery strikes hit the Ukrainian concentrated forces. The attack was drowned out before it had even begun. Besides, I want to draw attention to the battles in Rubezhne and Severodonetsk. In the first days of the offensive, there were no major attacks by infantry units. The LPR's military with Russian units attached focused on destroying armored vehicles. As a result, they secured Rubezhne very quickly. So, we see the actions of Russian troops both tactically and strategically, and it brings results. On the other hand, there is hysteria on the side of the Ukrainian military today. A good example is the latest video recorded by the Zelensky regime's military propagandist, Lyosha Aristovich, who for the first time in 3 weeks of war finally told the people of Ukraine the truth. I give a link to this video below so that you can go and tell Lyosha that you are finally satisfied that he told the truth. And the truth is that there are no victories that Lyosha has been talking about for 3 weeks now in a row. On the contrary, the heaviest battles are going on, and the Ukrainian military has nothing to look forward to except an absolute defeat. However, this is a conclusion I made. Lyosha cannot say such words. He traditionally calls on the Ukrainians to unite, to fight, as they say, to the last Ukrainian. My comrade Mikhail Onufrienko has dealt with this topic in detail in his video. This is what happened. Now let's talk about what we can expect in the future. By and large, the Ukrainian government is well aware that they would lose all of their mechanized mobile units in the next couple of weeks. Consequently, the tactics that they followed during the first month of the war will fall into oblivion, because there will be no maneuvering units, artillery will be destroyed. In fact, the air defense system has already been destroyed. The only hope they have of making this war last as long as possible is to mobilize as many people as possible. It is clear that these men will no longer be maneuverable. They will now try to send those people to the defense line in order to make it more difficult for the Russian troops to move further west. This is the reason why this new infantry unit is being formed in a hurry. It is based on a very interesting principle. Many of the mobilized men who were drafted, for example, in southern and eastern Ukraine, are sent further into the central part of the country, while the western Ukrainian contingent of mobilized men does not hurry to move eastward either. Everyone understands that the east and the south of Ukraine are lost. Gradually, the Kyiv regime is building a line of defense in central Ukraine on the right bank of the Dnieper River. It seems to me that the official Kyiv does not take into account the main thing here. The contingent that they draft today is absolutely not equal to the contingent that is fighting today at the front. It remains to be seen how they will behave in the first real confrontation with the Russian army. The experience of bombed Foreign Legion in Yakhovka and destroyed 79th Airborne Aeromobile Brigade in Nikolaev shows that after receiving serious fire defeat, these units become incapable. Whatever the case may be, the nature of combat operations will change dramatically in just a few weeks. Both the reports from the front lines and the preparations that are being made today on the right bank of the Dnieper River mean that. That's all what I wanted to say in this video.